My name is Elena Cross, and I'm 24 years old. Imagine standing on a stage filled with flashing lights, hundreds of faces watching, your heart pounding with hope and fear. I was there, trembling in my favorite red dress, when the microphone slipped from my sweaty hands and crashed to the floor. The audience gasped. Then, laughter erupted. Not just small giggles, full-blown laughter. And leading them, right in the front row, was my best friend Mia. That moment shattered something inside me. I had spent months preparing for that performance, my big chance to impress the talent scouts from the city. I wanted to prove to everyone, especially Mia and my classmates, that I was more than the shy, stuttering girl who sat in the back of the room. But instead, I became their joke. If you want to see how this story unfolds, how I turned their laughter into their downfall, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more unbelievable stories of betrayal and redemption. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. It started during my final year at Riverside Arts Academy. I was always quiet, the kind of girl who would rather draw in her sketchbook than gossip in the cafeteria. Mia was the opposite, loud, confident, and adored by everyone. She had a voice that could charm anyone, and she knew it. We became friends during our first semester, or at least, that's what I thought. She would invite me to hang out, borrow my notes, even call me her lucky charm. But whenever I wasn't around, people whispered that she only kept me close because I made her look better by comparison. I ignored them. I believed in her. When the Academy announced the annual performance showcase, Mia and I auditioned together. We decided to perform a duet, a mix of singing and storytelling. It was my dream performance. I practiced day and night, rewriting lyrics, staying up late in my dorm, perfecting every line. But Mia barely practiced. She was too busy partying with her friends or filming vlogs for her growing online channel. Whenever I reminded her, she'd just laugh and say, "Relax, Elena. People are coming to see me, not you." That stung, but I stayed quiet. I didn't want to lose her friendship. The night of the showcase, everything went wrong. Just before going on stage, Mia handed me a glass of water. "For your nerves," she said with that perfect smile. I drank it without thinking. Minutes later, my throat felt dry, my hands shaky, my voice cracked. Still, I tried to perform. I stepped into the spotlight, heart pounding as the music started. But halfway through, I froze. My lyrics vanished from my mind. When I tried to sing again, my voice broke, horribly. The microphone slipped, hit the stage floor with a painful echo, and the laughter began. Mia didn't help me. She smirked. Then she whispered loud enough for the audience to hear, "Guess not everyone's meant for the spotlight." The humiliation burned through me like acid. My teachers looked disappointed. My classmates avoided my eyes. That night, I locked myself in my dorm, crying until sunrise. The next morning, my phone was exploding with notifications. Someone had uploaded a video of my failed performance. The caption read, "The girl who thought she could sing." And the account that posted it? Mia's. Thousands of views, hundreds of cruel comments. Cringe. Tone deaf. She should just quit. I wanted to disappear. I didn't attend classes for a week. I even considered dropping out. But something inside me, a spark of anger, of resolve, refused to die. If Mia wanted to humiliate me publicly, then I would rise publicly. So I deleted my social media, cut contact with everyone, and moved back home for a while. My mom didn't ask questions. She just held me and said, "Sometimes the fall is the beginning of the climb." Those words changed me. I started rebuilding myself. Quietly, patiently. I took online vocal lessons, learned video editing, and began uploading cover songs under a different name, Lena Ray. No one knew it was me. I sang behind a blurred background, never showing my face. Slowly, people began to notice. A small community formed. people who said my music helped them through their own pain. That meant everything to me. And then, one day, a major influencer shared my video. Overnight, my channel exploded. Thousands of subscribers, messages from producers. I couldn't believe it. That's when fate decided to test me again. Because one of those messages came from Mia. She didn't know Lena Ray was me. She just wrote, "Hi, Lena. I'm a singer too. Would love to collaborate with you. I think our voices would blend perfectly." I stared at her message for hours, heart pounding. This was my moment, my chance to make her fall, just like she made me. When I saw Mia's message, a strange mix of emotions flooded me. Anger, disbelief, and excitement. Teehee, same girl who laughed at me, who posted my humiliation for the world to see, was now unknowingly reaching out to me for a collaboration. Karma had a funny way of knocking at your door, and I was ready to answer. But I didn't respond immediately. I spent days thinking, planning, and imagining how I could turn this opportunity into my ultimate comeback. A quiet, clever revenge that would leave her stunned without me ever seeming vengeful. I had learned one crucial lesson from my fall. Never show your fear, never show your weakness. If Mia thought she could break me, she was wrong. I would rise, and she would fall, but on my terms. I began by studying Mia. I watched all her videos, her interviews, even live streams. She was talented, yes, but she relied heavily on charm and her popularity. Her singing had potential, but her confidence often overshadowed technique. Meanwhile, I had spent months sharpening my skills, my voice stronger, my control precise, my performances flawless. I crafted a plan in 3 steps. Step 1, the collaboration. I would accept Mia's invitation, but under my pseudonym, Lena Ray. She wouldn't suspect it was me. I would appear polite, supportive, and professional, everything she expected. Meanwhile, I would make sure the project was carefully documented. Step 2, the exposure. Once the collaboration was complete, I would release my own version. A solo performance that clearly outshined anything she did. This would happen on all major platforms, using my growing fan base to amplify the effect. Step 3, the reveal. Finally, at the peak moment, I would reveal my true identity. Mia would see not only that her rival was alive and thriving, but that the girl she laughed at had surpassed her in skill, audience, and confidence. The shock alone would be satisfying. I accepted her message, keeping my tone casual. "Hi, Mia. I'd love to collaborate. I've been looking forward to mixing our styles." She responded immediately, bubbly and oblivious. "Yay, I knew we'd sound amazing together. Can't wait to start?" The irony made me smirk. Our first virtual session arrived. She logged in, as radiant as ever, chatting and laughing. I stayed calm, measured, professional. Mia had no idea who she was speaking to. She joked about our duet chemistry while I silently recorded every note, every laugh, every slip she made. It was all going according to plan. Over the next 2 weeks, we worked together. Mia continued to be careless, missing cues, bragging about her natural talent, and ignoring my subtle corrections. Meanwhile, I polished my solo version relentlessly, perfecting every nuance. Then came the climax, the recording day. Mia's part was rushed. She wasn't prepared. My part was flawless. When we listened to the playback, the difference was staggering. Her voice was flat in some places, breathless in others, while mine soared effortlessly, full of emotion and control. I could feel the satisfaction bubbling inside me. This was more than revenge. It was justice. But I held back. I wanted the moment to be perfect. The final reveal needed precision. I decided to release my solo performance first. I posted it under Lena Ray, timed it for maximum views, and within hours, it went viral. Comments poured in. "Who is this? She's incredible. Better than anyone I've ever heard. Absolutely breathtaking." I watched as Mia, oblivious, sent me another cheerful message. Can't wait for people to hear our collab. Everyone's going to love it. Her confidence was intoxicating, for me. I had one more step to execute: the reveal. One evening, I sent her a private video message. The title read, "From Elena Cross with love." She clicked it, expecting perhaps a friendly note or encouragement. Instead, she saw me, fully myself, standing center stage, the girl she humiliated months ago, singing with the power and emotion she never thought I had. As the video played, I watched her reactions through her own video reply. Her smile vanished, replaced by shock, disbelief, and finally, panic. Wait, this can't be… Elena? I didn't reply. I let her watch the views climb, my subscribers multiply, the comments praising me roll in. She had no words. The girl she laughed at had not only risen, she had conquered. For the first time, I saw fear in Mia's eyes. The laughter was gone. The tables had turned completely. After the reveal, everything changed. Overnight, my life shifted from quiet anonymity to a whirlwind of attention and opportunity. Offers poured in from music producers, podcast hosts, and even international talent scouts. Lena Ray was no longer just a name on a screen. She was a force to be reckoned with. Mia, on the other hand, she vanished. At first, she tried to keep up her usual confident front on social media. She posted cheerful selfies, wrote motivational captions, and tagged me in harmless-sounding comments. But her followers noticed the tension. They noticed the difference. And soon, people began comparing our work. Her casual, charming style versus my refined, powerful performance. Her audience dwindled, while mine grew exponentially. I felt a strange mix of emotions watching her struggle. Part of me wanted to gloat endlessly, to rub in every ounce of karma served cold. But I held back. I had something better in mind. A face-to-face confrontation, one final scene where she couldn't escape the truth. It happened at the Riverside Arts Academy reunion, a semi-formal event for alumni. I had been invited as a featured performer, a rare honor for someone my age. I arrived early, in a sleek black outfit, feeling confident and powerful. The spotlight wasn't just for the stage, it was for me, and I knew it. I spotted Mia immediately. She was surrounded by old classmates, laughing loudly, trying to command attention the way she always did. But now I noticed cracks. Her smiles weren't reaching her eyes. She looked nervous, hesitant, and it thrilled me. As soon as she saw me, her eyes widened. Her hand paused mid-toast. I could see recognition dawn slowly, and then panic. "Elena," she whispered. Her voice barely carried. I smiled, calm and poised. "Yes, Mia, it's me. I hope you enjoyed the videos." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth, then closed it. She tried to speak, but I cut her off gently. "I want you to understand something," I said. My tone was soft but unwavering. "All those times you laughed at me, humiliated me, made me feel small, I never forgot. But I didn't let it stop me. I worked. I trained. I built something for myself, without needing anyone else to lift me up." She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I could almost see the guilt eating at her, the realization of how badly she had underestimated me. "I didn't do this to get revenge," I continued. "I did it to prove to myself that I could rise. But, seeing you here now, it's clear the world noticed too. And Mia. I guess karma has its way of balancing the scales." Her lips trembled, and finally, a quiet, almost inaudible, I'm sorry, Elena." I didn't need her apology. The victory wasn't in words. It was in her silence, the recognition that the girl she mocked had outshone her completely. The rest of the reunion was surreal. People came up to me, congratulated me, took photos. I performed my set flawlessly, every note sharp, every emotion raw. The applause was deafening. I could feel the energy, the admiration, a stark contrast to the laughter I had endured months ago. Mia tried to join me on stage during my last song, pretending to harmonize, but it was clear to everyone. Her voice faltered, overshadowed by mine. She couldn't hide her embarrassment. The audience didn't care about her charm anymore. They were captivated by my talent, my transformation. It was a bittersweet moment. I realized revenge, while satisfying, wasn't the ultimate goal. Redemption and self-growth were far sweeter. The laughter that once tore me apart now fueled my confidence. And Mia, she had no choice but to witness it. After the event, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. The message was clear. I had risen, she had fallen, and it wasn't about humiliation. It was about proving my worth. I left the reunion that night with my head high. I had reclaimed my life, my confidence, and my passion. The girl who had been laughed at was no longer the same. She had transformed into someone unstoppable. And Mia? She would think twice before ever underestimating someone again. In the weeks that followed, my career continued to soar. I signed contracts, performed at sold-out venues, and inspired countless people who had felt weak or overlooked. Each time I saw someone doubting themselves, I remembered my journey, the fall, the laughter, the rise, and I smiled, knowing that the greatest revenge is living your best life. The final piece of closure came unexpectedly. Mia reached out one last time, not for collaboration, but quietly, without drama. Elena, congratulations. You were always meant for more. I understand now. I didn't respond immediately. I let the message sit, and in that silence I realized I no longer needed validation. I had already won. After the reunion, life felt surreal. The echoes of applause still rang in my ears, a permanent reminder that I had not only survived, but thrived. I walked the streets of my city with a newfound confidence. People recognized me on the subway, at coffee shops, even in quiet corners where no one else noticed. I had become a symbol, proof that falling didn't mean failing, and that laughter from others could fuel your rise rather than crush your spirit. Mia tried to adjust to the new reality. She posted carefully curated videos online, trying to regain her audience. But the spark that once drew people to her was gone. It wasn't talent alone that built my following. It was authenticity, hard work, and resilience. And she couldn't fake those qualities. I began sharing my story openly, no longer hiding behind Lena Ray. Interviews, podcasts, and social media platforms became my stage for inspiration. I talked about the humiliation I endured, the betrayal by someone I trusted, and the countless nights spent crying alone. I told people about the decision I made, not to seek petty revenge, but to transform my pain into power. One fan emailed me saying, "I was bullied all through high school, and seeing what you've accomplished gives me hope. Thank you." Tears filled my eyes. That moment reminded me that my rise was never just about Mia. It was about all the people who had ever felt small, overlooked, or laughed at. My story had the power to lift others, and that felt infinitely more satisfying than seeing Mia stumble. Once painful, now fueled me. It reminded me that true strength comes from within. Mia finally contacted me one more time, this time with humility and sincerity. She sent a long message. "Elena, I was wrong. I laughed at you, I underestimated you, and I caused you pain. Seeing you grow into this incredible artist and person is humbling. I hope one day I can rebuild what I lost, not just with you, but with myself." I read it carefully, then put my phone down. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel the need to reply. Closure isn't always in words. It's in knowing you've become who you were meant to be. The final chapter of my story wasn't about revenge. It was about transformation, perseverance, and self-respect. I had fallen once, humiliated in front of everyone I knew. But I rose stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. The laughter that once cut me deep became the fuel for my determination. The betrayal that once left scars became the lesson that shaped me. And Mia, whether she acknowledged it or not, became part of the story of my triumph. I now travel the world performing, mentoring, and inspiring others. People tell me their own stories of struggle, and I remind them, falling isn't failing. It's the first step to rising. And as for me, I still remember that night vividly. The microphone slipping, the audience laughing, Mia at the front smirking. But when I close my eyes now, it isn't a memory of shame. It's a memory of how far I've come and how unstoppable I am. Because sometimes the world laughs at you, and then, in time, you laugh last. After my big reveal and the reunion, life began moving at an incredible pace. Offers from music producers turned into contracts, and my once small online following exploded into hundreds of thousands. Lena Ray, or rather Elena Cross, became a brand, a symbol of transformation, resilience, and raw talent. But despite all the external success, I stayed grounded. I remembered every tear, every mocking laugh, every moment I had been overlooked. Those memories weren't scars anymore. They were fuel. Mia tried to rebuild her image too, but it was clear she had lost her edge. She reached out occasionally, hoping to reconnect or collaborate. But I was careful. I didn't need her to validate me. If anything, I wanted to see her success, her real success, come from effort and authenticity, not charm and manipulation. I spent a lot of time reflecting on the journey that brought me here. I realized there were 3 major lessons I had learned. Pain can be power. The moments that break you can also forge you. Each laugh, each betrayal, each failure became bricks in the foundation of my success. Revenge isn't about humiliation. True satisfaction comes from transformation, not from making someone else suffer. Watching Mia struggle wasn't the reward. Thriving despite her mockery was. Self-worth cannot be shaken. The world may mock you, people may betray you, but your value is yours alone. Once you recognize it, no one else can diminish it. With these lessons in mind, I started mentoring young artists at my old school. I wanted to be the teacher I never had, the one who encourages, uplifts, and reminds students that their mistakes do not define them. One day, during a workshop, a girl approached me timidly. Her voice shook as she said, "Elena, I don't think I'm good enough to perform." I smiled and put a hand on her shoulder. "Let me tell you something," I said. "I once stood where you are. I was laughed at, humiliated, and left wondering if I even belonged. But that doesn't define you. What you do with your pain does. You rise, you grow, and eventually, you'll find your voice, louder and stronger than ever before." She looked at me, eyes wide with hope. And for the first time, I realized that my story had grown beyond me. It had become a story of inspiration, proof that anyone could rise from mockery and heartbreak. Meanwhile, in the background, Mia watched. I could tell she was trying to understand what had happened, why I had risen so completely while she struggled. I didn't seek to punish her. I didn't even need to explain myself. Success and authenticity are lessons some people only learn by watching others live them. As the months passed, my career continued to soar. I released my first full-length album, toured internationally, and even spoke at conferences about resilience, creativity, and the power of self-belief. Every stage, every city, every audience reminded me I had transformed completely. And the memory of that stage, years ago, when my microphone slipped and Mia laughed, now felt like a distant shadow, not painful anymore, not humiliating, just the spark that ignited the fire of Elena Cross. I often thought about the journey while looking at the skyline from my hotel rooms around the world. The laughter, the betrayal, the pain. It was all part of the story. And I realized something. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. Yet, despite all the glitz, all the applause, and all the fame, the most important victories were internal: confidence, self-respect, and peace. I finally understood that real triumph doesn't come from making someone else fall. It comes from standing tall when everyone expected you to stay down. And standing tall felt incredible. By now, my life felt completely transformed. From the shy, overlooked girl who froze on stage to a confident performer commanding international audiences, I had walked a path that few could even imagine. Yet, despite the lights, cameras, and endless applause, I never forgot the small lessons that had brought me here: humility, patience, and the understanding that true power comes from resilience, not revenge. Mia still lingered in the background, occasionally posting on social media, occasionally sending me messages cloaked in casual politeness. Days. I ignored her. Other days I read her messages carefully, recognizing the faint trace of remorse and admiration that peeked through her carefully chosen words. It was during one of these quiet nights that I realized something crucial. The story wasn't about Mia anymore. It was about me and how far I had come. I decided to face my past fully. I contacted the school where it all began, Riverside Arts Academy, and offered to perform a masterclass for students. This was different from the usual workshops. It wasn't about fame or career tips. It was about empowerment, showing young artists that failure was never the end, and that laughter from others could be turned into fuel. On the day of the masterclass, the auditorium buzzed with excitement. Students whispered, pointing at me, remembering the viral videos, and sharing their anticipation. I looked out at their eager faces and smiled, remembering the girl I once was, hesitant, afraid, overlooked. Then I saw her, Mia. She had come to the event too, probably curious, probably still trying to understand how I had transformed so completely. Her eyes widened as she realized the scope of the room, the admiration people had for me, and the respect I commanded. During the class, I shared every detail: the humiliation, the betrayal, the lonely nights of practice, and the small victories that led me here. I encouraged students to embrace failure, to learn from it, and to rise stronger. And as I spoke, I felt something shift. It wasn't anger or pride, but peace. I realized that the laughter that once tore me apart had no power over me anymore. It had only made me stronger. Mia approached after the session, quietly, her voice trembling. "Elena, I don't even know what to say. You're incredible." I smiled softly, a mixture of kindness and quiet triumph. "You don't need to say anything, Mia. The lesson isn't about revenge. It's about what you do with the moments that hurt you. That's the real victory." For the first time, I saw genuine understanding in her eyes. She nodded, a silent acknowledgement that things had changed, not just for me, but for both of us. That night, after the auditorium emptied, I stood alone on the stage. The lights were dimmed, the echoes of applause replaced by silence. I closed my eyes and remembered every moment of my journey, every laugh, every tear, every doubt, and I whispered to myself, "I fell, they laughed, but now I stand, and I laugh last." It was more than just a personal triumph. It was the full circle of my story, from humiliation to empowerment, from fear to courage, from pain to peace. The road ahead was still long, full of challenges and opportunities. But I knew one thing for certain: nothing could shake me again. Not laughter, not betrayal, not even fear. I had learned the most important lesson of all, that the person who truly defines you is yourself. And in that moment, I understood that the story wasn't just about them laughing at me. It was about me finding my voice, my strength, and my place in the world. Months turned into years, and by now, Elena Cross, once the girl mocked on stage, had become a household name. Not just for her music, but for the story she carried with her. The story of falling, being laughed at, and rising stronger than ever. Each performance was no longer just a song. It was a testament to resilience, a reminder to anyone watching that failure is never final. I traveled the world, performing in cities I had only dreamed of. Yet, every step I took reminded me of where I began. That small stage, the microphone slipping from my hands, and the cruel laughter that once seemed unbearable. I had transformed that memory from a source of pain into a source of power. Along the way, I made sure to give back. I started a foundation for young artists who had been bullied, overlooked, or doubted. It wasn't just about music. It was about confidence, self-expression, and empowerment. I wanted them to understand that one embarrassing moment, one betrayal, or one cruel laugh could never define them. I often met students who reminded me of myself, quiet, hesitant, unsure of their worth. And I shared my story with them, the full truth, the humiliation, the betrayal, the long nights of practice, and the ultimate triumph. The looks in their eyes, hope, determination, and belief, reminded me why I endured everything in the first place. Mia's presence faded into the background over time. She occasionally reached out, sometimes for advice, sometimes just to reconnect. By then, it didn't matter. Our paths had diverged, and the past no longer held power over either of us. If anything, her attempts to reconcile quietly reminded me that growth is its own reward, and that sometimes people learn through watching rather than through confrontation. I learned another important truth. Success and self-worth are not measured by how others perceive you, but by how firmly you stand in your own truth. The most profound moment of my journey came when I returned to Riverside Arts Academy, the place where it all began. As a guest speaker, I addressed hundreds of students, many of whom were nervous, shy, or unsure of their place. I told them, "There will be people who laugh at you, doubt you, or try to make you small. But your strength isn't in avoiding failure. It's in rising after it. Your journey is yours to write, and no one else can define it. Fall, learn, rise, and then laugh last." The room erupted in applause. I saw faces light up with understanding and inspiration. And in that moment, I realized the true triumph wasn't my fame, my music, or even my revenge. It was the impact I could make, the lives I could touch, and the legacy I could leave behind. I looked back on my life, on every tear shed, every mocking laugh endured, every lonely night of practice. All of it had led me here, not to spite anyone, but to prove to myself that I could survive, thrive, and rise above. The girl who fell, who was laughed at, had become someone unshakable, someone who could inspire, mentor, and empower others, someone whose laughter now carried strength, confidence, and victory. Because in the end, it wasn't about them laughing or me falling. It was about me rising, stronger and brighter than ever before. My name is Elena Cross, and now, at 26, I finally understand what it means to rise completely. The girl who was laughed at, mocked, and humiliated has grown into someone unstoppable. Every note I sing, every stage I step onto, carries the weight of my journey. The pain, the betrayal, and the ultimate triumph. After Riverside Arts Academy, my life became a whirlwind. Tours, recordings, interviews, and workshops filled my days. Each success reminded me that the fall I had suffered was never permanent. It had been the foundation of who I was becoming. I still remember that fateful day when my microphone slipped. The laughter that echoed through the auditorium, Mia's smirk at the front row, the whispers of classmates, all of it haunted me for weeks. But now, thinking back, I realize it was a gift in disguise. It forced me to confront my weaknesses, to push harder, and to embrace the strength I never knew I had. When I released my solo work as Lena Ray, no one knew it was me. That anonymity gave me freedom. I could build my talent quietly, without fear. And when the world finally discovered Elena Cross had been behind those videos, the shock was undeniable. The girl they laughed at was now the artist everyone admired. Mia, of course, was shocked. She had underestimated me completely, just as she had before. But my goal wasn't to humiliate her, it was to prove my own worth. And watching her process, that was strangely satisfying, in a quiet, calm way. Over time, our interactions became minimal. She reached out occasionally, cautiously, but I didn't need her approval. My focus had shifted to what truly mattered: my growth, my music, and the people I could inspire. I began mentoring young artists, many of whom reminded me of myself. Shy, hesitant, unsure. I would share my story, my failures, and my triumphs. And as I watched their faces light up with hope and determination, I realized that my journey wasn't just about personal revenge anymore. It had become a legacy. Performing at the masterclass in my old school was a turning point. Standing on the stage, addressing hundreds of young hopefuls, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment. I shared everything: the humiliation, the heartbreak, and the long nights of practice. And I told them, your failures don't define you. Your pain doesn't control you. What defines you is how you rise after the fall. The applause that followed wasn't just for my music. It was for my journey. For every moment I had survived and transformed into power. Mia was there, quietly observing. I could see the realization in her eyes, the understanding that I had grown far beyond her expectations. She didn't speak much, but her acknowledgement didn't matter. I had no need for her approval. I had earned my own. Years passed, and my career continued to soar. I performed internationally, released chart-topping albums, and became a voice for those who had been silenced by cruelty or doubt. But the most meaningful victories weren't measured in fame or money. They were measured in the lives I touched, the young artists I empowered, and the personal peace I had found. I often reflect on the laughter that once tore me apart. I replay that moment in my mind, not with pain, but with gratitude. It forced me to grow. It forced me to rise, and it shaped the woman I had become, resilient, confident, and unshakable. The girl who fell, who was mocked and underestimated, now stood tall. Her laughter was no longer fragile or fearful. It carried strength, confidence, and victory. And that, more than anything, was the ultimate triumph. I don't hold anger toward Mia anymore. Life has a way of teaching lessons without bitterness. She may never fully understand what I achieved, but I no longer need her to. I have my own story, my own success, and my own peace. The final message I share with everyone I meet, every young artist I mentor, and every person struggling to rise after failure is simple: fall, embrace your pain, work tirelessly, and rise stronger than ever. Because eventually the world may laugh at you, people may doubt you, and betrayal may seem unbearable. But when you rise fully, stronger, braver, and unstoppable. The girl who fell, who everyone laughed at, now laughs last, and that laughter carries victory, power, and freedom. I am Elena Cross, and this is my story. The end.